NPC dinosaurs have to some extent been always present in the game since its release back in 2015. While in the beginning they were nothing more than walking pieces of meat with zero interactability, over the years they were redesigned multiple times until the very end of Legacy's development in 2018, being an important food source for juvenile carnivores, helping them survive throughout their growth cycle. However, this is not where the story ends. The desire to expand and diversify its capabilities was disclosed for a very long time at this point, and as of now, small portions of said plans are already in the Isle with fish and small necrophagous dinos such as Compy and Pterodactylus, but the end goal is far greater than just some scavengers. Keep in mind that this is not set in stone and the devs can change their plans at any time, which wouldn't be the first time happening, but to summarize, Afterthought's objective is to create a self-sustaining ecosystem consisting exclusively of AI dinosaurs with complex and realistic behavior that would represent the majority of the dino population on every given server. The numbers were never confirmed or publicly established, but the 300 to 500 pop range on top of the 100 human slots was mentioned a few years ago, back when Evrima was in its infancy. So at the very least we know that developers want AI to be more numerous than players. Now, while this sounds like a good idea on paper, you guys already know me by now and know that I'm gonna complain about it, so let's cut the chase here and see why AI in this manner is a bad idea. NPC dinosaurs is not new in the slightest for most the Isle players, both old and new. For the majority of the game's lifespan we had them in one way or another. So why would they be a problem now? After all, it would be insanely cool seeing actual herds roaming across the island, right? Beginning with a positive for a change, the addition of large quantities of AI does indeed have its benefits. One of them is immersion. The Isle's most notorious feature is arguably its influence on people and making them feel like they exist in a mysterious world filled with prehistoric life. The Isle's immersion is for many its greatest strength. From the animations, the landscapes, the sound and the smaller details, the game provides a deep experience that it's very hard to replicate in other games of the same genre, and adding even more dinosaurs into the mix would enhance the Isle's fantasy. What we only see on trailers and movies, we would be able to see it on a daily basis in a completely organic way. Herds roaming, pterodons fishing, carnic packs hunting. So many entities at the same time would easily create an amazing spectacle that would make the game feel amazing to play. Another point that is even more important than that is its effects on the game's longevity. Being as it is, the Isle is exclusively multiplayer, meaning that the ability to play it to begin with solely depends on the game's population. This is obviously a problem if more and more people stop playing it, an issue that could be prevented with the addition of a large amount of NPC dinos. With such sizable population, even if the server was completely devoid of human players, people would still be able to play the game the way it is intended. Sure, it would be demotivating knowing that you're the only person playing, but at the very least, we would be able to play it, and that in and of itself would increase the Isle's lifespan considerably. But with these benefits, how can I still say that this is a bad idea, here you ask? While these points are true, that doesn't mean that the negatives don't outweigh the positives. Multiplayer games far surpass single-player ones, and that is for a reason. People love to interact with other people, either competitively or cooperatively. Players enjoy social interaction, and multiplayer titles, especially survival games, are very well known for delivering that social aspect in an exceptional way. The Isle is such an example. In one way or another, people really enjoy the several activities dinosaurs can have with each other: combat, hunting, nesting, migrating, exploring, role-playing, or just chilling. They all fulfill the needs of diverse groups of people, but in the end, it is a human interaction that they all have in common, and it's that exact same aspect where AI presents a problem. For what we know, and remember that this can change at any time, the NPCs are planned to be used on the same roster players use with the same level of customization. They will use the same dinos we use and pick the same colors we pick, meaning that apart from behavior, you can't in no way, shape or form distinguish a regular player from an AI. This is very damaging to our gameplay experience, due to the fact that at the moment, AI is extremely limited. Sure, artificial intelligence has been making some insane technological leaps for the past year, but when it comes to video games in general, and the AI in specific, the AI we will end up getting will not be comparable to a human, not in the slightest. We want to be able to interact with them the same way and intensity as we do with other people. They are heavily restricted by their code and they can't adapt, they can't innovate or act in an unpredictable way because they don't think. They are simply a culmination of rules and patterns, and thus providing us with an inferior experience even though there's more of them. You will find a random Carno, try to interact with it for 5 minutes and finally realize that it's an AI and you will feel like you wasted your time. Remember in Legacy when you would see an Ava acting weird and you would try talking with it just to realize it was a bugged AI all along? Now imagine 300 of those and they would be all sorts of dinos rather than Avas. Some people indeed don't care if the dinos are AI or not, and if that's your case then more power to you. But for better or worse, the majority of people do care, and it will be very demotivating seeing 60 dinos in the forest but being unable to tell which one is a real player. Another aspect that it's even more detrimental to the game is performance, or lack thereof. Evrima already suffers immensely from performance issues, like the performance is really awful, like holy shit. The lack of optimization in the game will only be magnified tenfold with the introduction of so much AI into the game. And what is more impressive is that they already had this issue in Legacy. Servers constantly lag due to AI either not working properly or for accidentally overspawning, and straight up crashing because of it. And keep in mind, Legacy's AI is extremely bare bones. So how will Afterthought implement 100, 200, 300, 400 AI intended to be more mechanically complex than Legacy, which consumes more server power by the way, on top of a game that is already struggling with its performance? Even worse, let's say that the devs do have the means to have a server with 500 slots, 100 for players and 400 for AI, working with zero issues, zero performance impact, best case scenario. Let's think about that for a moment. If they could do that, why not simply open all 500 slots for players? Why bother with an AI that consumes more power from the server when you could just let more people in? Community servers are constantly trying to increase their capacity. People want to play on larger servers. So if they could do that right now, which obviously they can't, otherwise official servers wouldn't have 100 slot cap, why choose for an inferior, performance-heavy option that goes against what the community wants in the first place? Like I mentioned in the beginning, having more specimens would enhance the game's immersion, 100%, but that immersion is paper thin. It would completely be torn apart the moment you try to communicate with a dinosaur and you can't do it properly because it's an AI. That would break our sense of disbelief instantly. Right now, nobody complains about the current AI because they exist in a completely different playing field and the interactions they can have with us are not the same ones we are expecting from other players, mostly because they are using AI exclusive species. If that line is crossed, it will look pretty in the beginning, but the moment you start actually playing the game, you will start to see the deep negatives this system as a whole possess. I do believe the game can benefit with the use of NPC characters, but not like this. This is going way overboard and will do little more than just confuse people and make the game's performance even worse. You can argue that Unreal Engine 5 would help with dealing with AI, and yes, that is a possibility, but with the resources Afterthought has, I'm heavily skeptical. Of course, this is all speculation, because Amarok was in charge of working on AI almost 3 years ago and we haven't seen anything about that outside the buggy fish AI and pterodactyls barely working. So our chances of getting NPC dinos at this point seems pretty small, but I digress. A huge thank you to my Patreon supporters for supporting the channel and the content I create. If you wanna join the ranks, the link will be in the description. Don't forget to leave your thoughts and opinions down below, join our Discord server for memes and pillar nut stuff, and I hope to see you all next week.